Well, we welcome you back to Jehovah's Witness World News, and my name's Rick Farron. This is my colleague Chelsea Danvers, and today what we're doing is we're interviewing former Jehovah's Witness Mark Palo, who claims he was actually molested in the Jehovah's Witness organization by a governing body member at the world headquarters in New York. So it's an interesting program. We want you to stay with us. There's a lot more we're going to be covering here. The Jehovah's Witnesses are hiding behind a lot, and hopefully these programs that we'll be having on this station will enlighten you to who the Jehovah's Witnesses are. Many are calling them a very dark, dangerous cult. So we're here to expose them. We're here to give you the other side of the story. And as we mentioned earlier, the witnesses, they've had this clean, pristine, pure image, but that image is now changing. There's a lot of bad press that's coming against the Watchtower Organization. So Mark, where we left off, you were talking about some of the problems the witnesses have caused. You're out of it now, but when you grew up in it and some of the problems as a young man, the anxieties, the levels of depression that has entered into your way of life has created problems for you. You can continue to elaborate on that, Mark.
Oh, they don't even believe in using the Salvation Army or giving stuff to the Salvation Army, because Salvation Army is a religion. But they call every other religion in the world is false. It's Babylon the Great. They're all pagans. And so that's why the witnesses, they're totally insular. In fact, they only marry within the faith, and that's another issue too. Plus, I'm shunned because I'm what they call an apostate, okay? And the Watchtower, I don't know who their mental health professionals are, but they have labeled people like me as mentally unstable or mentally deranged. I'd like to know the mental health professional that did this, because the word apostate, look it up in Webster's dictionary, the definition is one who leaves a party or a faith. That's it. But the Watchtower adds 5 paragraphs to what an apostate is.
Well, recently, Mark, the Watchtower Organization has been put under scrutiny by authorities, at least in the United Kingdom. They're beginning to look into that particular article you're referring to about calling apostates mentally diseased. That article was in the Watchtower magazine. And it wasn't this particular issue, but that's the magazine that it would have appeared in. It would have been the July 15th, 2011 edition of the Watchtower. And it did indeed in print say that those who leave the Watchtower, apostates as they call them, would be considered mentally diseased. But then the magazine even went on further to put more frosting on the cake, Mark. It went on to even suggest that it could be contagious if you get near apostates. You could catch this mental disease.
You can catch apostasy.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So I mean, you've been beat up big time by the Watchtower Organization. A number have, we know, thousands, millions perhaps around the world. But what I would like to know, because of the restraints, because of the trauma you had with your problems growing up and being molested in that organization, as well as trying to follow their dictates as a young man, obviously this affected your life today. And I'm wondering how it has affected. Do you have any mental anguish because of this, Mark?
Well, yeah, I'm under the health care of a mental health professional. I'm on certain meds that stabilize. I mean, I don't walk around zoned out. And these meds stabilize the anxiety, the depression, the anxiety. I would suffer from horrendous nightmares or PTSD, and certain things can trigger it. So yeah, it did, but I got to realize something. I'm a recovered alcoholic. I've been sober 22 years, but you know who taught me how to drink?
You tell me.
Okay, down at Bethel, when I used to do pre-assembly work, starting at around 13 years of age.
Well, what would Bethel be now? Because
Bethel is the headquarters, like I mentioned before, where my father served for 13 years. Okay? Bethel is the headquarters, and we would do pre-assembly work, assembling sound equipment, speakers, all kinds of things, making sure they worked before they were shipped out to the assembly sites. I would hang around after the day's work was done. Bethelites didn't think anything of my age, 13, 14 years old. Have a beer, Mark, have a beer.
Wow.
So I'd be going home that night, on the train with 4 or 5 beers, and at 13, 14 years of age, you're feeling pretty fritzy, you know.
Wow.
But that's where I learned how to drink, and that's what started my love of drink.
Well, no doubt, Mark, your life has been adversely affected, not just because of alcohol, but because of other issues that you had to deal with as the years progressed along.
Kind of addiction, you escape from your reality. And so that became a habit, you know, the drinking became a bad habit, you know, as a habitual drinker, an alcoholic. And the thing is with the witnesses that when it was getting near the end, the witnesses absolutely have no charities, no outreach programs, no help programs, nothing. They don't even donate clothes or ask for donations of clothes or anything. I mean, they do for their own members.
Right.
Say send money, but they don't say, well, how about a box of clothes? You know, send money, and I don't know where that money goes. But anyway, I'm not pointing fingers. But anyway, just to show you how what would you say it, archaic the witness's belief is. When I had my problems with my drinking and it was becoming known in the congregation, one elder offered me a study in the truth book, which is the blue bombshell they call it, or the that's the basic fundamentals of the religious belief of the witnesses. He said to me, Mark, I can stop your drinking if you sit down and study the truth book with me. I looked at him and I laughed in his face. I said, I probably know that book better than you, backwards, forwards, inside out. And you're going to stop my drinking from studying this book? I couldn't believe it. I mean, but the witnesses had nothing. They had no outreach, no anything. They don't even have a hospital. Okay, yet they're a multi-billion-dollar corporation. Where is this billions of dollars? They claim the money goes to the worldwide preaching work. I have a problem with that.
Well, Mark, if you were a nominal Christian and in another Christian faith, so to speak, even though we don't believe the Jehovah's Witnesses, as you said earlier, Christian, but if you were in a church and you went to the pastor and you said, I have a drinking problem, what would the church do for you?
Oh, well, when I left the witnesses, I became a Baptist. And the Calvary Baptist Church, the pastor, I told him I had a drinking problem. I had just stopped drinking. So I was newly sober. And I told the pastor, I was honest with him about it. And he said to me, anytime you need help, you call me. He says, if need be, we'll send you through the church to a what would you call it, addiction center, to treat your addiction. But he says, you have my support, and the fact that you're trying to stop, you got the congregation's support. And I did. I received full support. I was never made to feel unwanted. I was never shunned at this church or anything. But at the Kingdom Hall, because I was publicly reproved once for something unrelated to that, it was something else totally. I was treated like a pariah, and you could see people going, there he is, look at him. And you know, but the difference between the two, you know, the Baptist Church and the Kingdom Hall is phenomenal. I marveled at that for almost a year, the way I was treated in that church.
Yeah, I wanted to bring that out because there is a difference. In fact, there's even a young woman I knew right up here in New England, as a matter of fact, and she had a drinking problem as a Jehovah's Witness. And she was only at the time, I believe, maybe 20, 22 years old, in that area. So she went to the elders, and she mentioned to them that she was having problems with liquor. So the elders came over to her house to talk to her about it. And they were going to make a decision on what they were going to do with her because this problem wasn't being worked against. She was still having the problem. So what they did is they disfellowshipped her. Now, you mentioned earlier, we know what happens in the world of the Jehovah's Witnesses when you're disfellowshipped, or you disassociate yourself.
Which I did.
And as a matter of fact, even right now, Mark, just to bring you right up to speed on this, today, even if you say, here in the year 2012, even if you say that I no longer want to be one of Jehovah's Witnesses, the witnesses will turn on you. They will shun you. They will avoid you.
Yes.
They will treat you as though you're spiritually dead. You're aware of that.
Well, Rick, let's be honest. It actually goes to comic lengths. Okay, when you go in the supermarket and you go down the aisle and you run into two witnesses shopping, they see you, recognize you, you would have thought that Satan incarnate was standing there with his tail and his horns and his pitchfork, because they freak out. They get out of the aisle as fast as they can. People notice it, and you know, people look at you like, "What'd you do?" And I was just there with the shopping cart with my wife. I didn't do anything, but because I'm apostate, they ran. A perfect example to show you. When my mother-in-law passed away, she was a witness, my father-in-law, and they put it out. First of all, I got it wrong. They said I was disfellowshipped, and I got very angry at that. I said I disassociated myself because I left on my own terms, not yours. And they don't consider the difference. There's no difference. You're treated the same way. But they told my father-in-law that after the funeral at the Kingdom Hall, that nobody from the congregation would come if I was present at the house. This is a woman's funeral.
Wow.
And the beautiful part of it was, I just took it like a gentleman, but the entire family, except for the father, are non-witnesses. Their opinion of witnesses went from here down to here when they heard, because where's Mark? Where's Mark? He can't be here because they think he's apostate and everything else. And so, you know, the witnesses actually witnessed against themselves and how ridiculous they are. You know, how can I convince 20 witnesses to change their religion if I'm sitting there eating a tuna sandwich? You know, you think about it, Rick, the ridiculousness of it.
Well, no doubt, Mark. That's why the Watchtower Society uses techniques to keep people into the religion. Now, some people call it mind control.
It is.
There's a form of mind control that's going on there, Mark, because for the most part, you say to yourself, well, how could a person be in an organization that doesn't believe in so many things? They distance themselves from people that are worldly, including their relatives.
Oh, yeah.
How can an organization be the truth when they're not showing love to people that leave or people that have problems like you did with alcoholism? So these are questions that have to be answered. Do you believe there's mind control in the
Oh,
organization?
absolutely. I have a question I'd like to ask the Lowell Highlands congregation, the body of elders of the Lowell Highlands congregation, and my what have I done in life other than leave the witnesses to make it so that I cannot see my 7-year-old grandson who she has custody of? I am not allowed to phone call him, see him, contact him. I can't give him a gift. I can't do anything because I am considered so evil, deranged, and everything. And I challenge this congregation to answer me a good reason why. Just because I'm apostate or I'm out of it, you know, I'm not a witness anymore. Is that good enough reason to cut off a grandfather from his grandson? I see all my other grandkids. I see 4 of my kids who aren't witnesses. 2 of them, my sons, they're not sons anymore because they don't want anything to do with me. I don't care. I don't cry over the loss because it's their loss, not mine. But I challenge the Lowell Highlands congregation to come down here one day and sit right here and answer why I can't see my grandson. But I'm not the only one, Rick. I am not the only one. You go on the net, you look at it, you will see hundreds of stories. You yourself can't see a grandchild, and a daughter will not speak to you because you left the witnesses. What value? I challenge them to come down and say what value. They claim that shunning actually is a spiritual help. It will make the person feel so bad that they'll come back into the fold. Bull. Excuse my French, but bull. Okay? I know of cases, and there's more than one, where someone got disfellowshipped and they were shunned so severely they committed suicide. In fact, there's a walled memoriam of people who have committed suicide because of the Jehovah's Witness shunning. That's one issue that really gets my dander, as you can tell.
Well, no, it does, Mark, it does raise an eyebrow here, and one has to take a close look at what shunning can do. The family is the most important thing in a person's life. And if you're going to have an organization that's going to tear that family apart, all kinds of serious mental issues can get problematic.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I just think in terms of Dr. Jerry Bergman. He's a former Jehovah's Witness psychologist, and he wrote a book called Jehovah's Witness and the Problem of Mental Health. And he claims that per capita, Jehovah's Witnesses have more persons suffering from mental anxiety and mental illness than any other religion. And the shunning is a terrible, evil act. They try to take it from the Bible. They say it's biblical. They go with the 1 Corinthians, the 5th chapter, I believe it is. And in that chapter, there was a man, the Apostle Paul was going to visit the Corinthian congregation, and there was a man in the congregation that was actually having relations with his mother, actually the father's wife. It could have been his real mother or his stepmother, whatever. But that's the Apostle Paul was concerned about that, and so they warned the man this had to stop, so he couldn't communicate with the Christians in Corinth. He was excommunicated. But when a person's excommunicated, Mark, there's really nothing to be said that they have to be shunned. Biblically speaking, when a person is excommunicated, it means you can't come and commune with the Christians. You can't partake of the bread and the wine. Yeah. But the witnesses take it to the nth degree. In fact, what the witnesses do is they make it to the point that you have to consider the person spiritually dead. But the Bible says when a person leaves the faith, to treat one as a man of the nations. And what is a man of the nations? That would be like the person working at the grocery store or a person you meet at the Home Depot. You say hello and you greet them. You might not fraternize with them, but that's how you're supposed to treat a person that leaves the faith. The Jehovah's Witnesses go, as we say, to the nth degree.
Well, I'm going to make a statement, and I can back it up. The elders in the Lowell Highlands congregation are a group of the biggest liars I have ever met. I'm not going to name names, so just so we avoid issues there, but they are liars, because I have spoken to them about this issue with my ex-wife and my grandson. And I've been lied to, bold-faced, straight to my face. We'll talk to her about it. You have every right to see your grandson. Even when now I'm threatening with court, and I am going to take legal action against the congregation and my ex-wife, because I have a legal right in the state of Massachusetts to see my grandchild. Okay? I mean, first of all, I'm a tenant council president of my building. I worked 15 years at Lowell House as a consumer advocate in a substance abuse agency. I do all these things. So I can't be bad for a grandkid. But I call them liars because they said, no problem, we'll talk to her. It's been over a year, still no progress. So I challenge them right here. Lowell Highlands congregation, come at me. They won't.
Well, Mark, maybe there's some that will see this interview, and I hope many seeing this interview can kind of wake up and smell the coffee. I hope that some of them can really see that there is destructive behavior that is indeed going on in the Jehovah's Witness religion. And now they're claiming, Mark, like I said earlier, they're claiming 7 million members and growing. And, you know, there's even a lot to be said about that. We don't see the witnesses coming around door to door as we used to. See, they're very aggressive in their proselytizing. And that's how they've got so many recruits. And that's their main objective, is to recruit you into the organization so that you can go out and recruit others. And that's what we all realized as witnesses from being in it so long, that, boy, basically, you're like a salesperson. You're selling their Watchtower and Wake magazines. But as we said, there's a dark shadow that is now hovering over the world headquarters of Jehovah's Witnesses. And it's the internet. It's Facebook, for example. And you know all of the writings that are going on Facebook. Now, as a Jehovah's Witness, Mark, would they let you have a Facebook account?
I would believe not. They even discourage you from surfing the internet. Because what if you, by mistake, quote unquote, I'm sarcastic about that because it's not by mistake that real Jehovah's Witnesses end up on ex-witness sites. They want to know. It's the forbidden fruit. It's the apostate seed. It's the bad apple. It's the, the worm in the apple. They've got to see it. It's a part of human nature. The heck with this belief that, oh yeah, I'm a good Christian. I'm never going to defile myself by looking. They look because they're curious. And also, a lot of them will look because of one thing, and I think you've mentioned this several times to me, Rick, is that they're questioning now. Before, there was no questioning. It wasn't allowed. It's not allowed. But now there's a lot of people who are quietly questioning to themselves, saying, what's going on here?
There's no question about it, Mark. In fact, we have a website. It's called sixscreensofthewatchtower.com. And a very visual site. It's been up and running now for 4 years. We get a lot of people writing to us from that site. And so many people right now are in what we call the conscious class. That is, they have 1 foot in the organization and 1 foot out. They really don't believe it. But the reason why they can't just step aside and leave the organization is because of the ramifications of shunning that will come against them. And the whole problem that these ones are faced with, and I get lots and lots of email from people in this class, and the problem that they have is some of these people are married to a witness, and how do you really tell your mate that you've been going to the Kingdom Hall for so long, now you don't believe this? This is something that you got to really be careful with, because it can create so many problems. Once the witnesses get hold of the fact that you are doubting the organization, you've got to watch out.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's the truth. I mean, you know, the congregation tried in Lowell to get rid of me several times. One of the more, I'd say, funny incidents was when I was accused of being a degenerate gambler. Okay? Now, Rick, you and I, we talk on the phone every so often, or at work. You know, and you know I'm from the Bronx, so I'm a Yankee fan. Okay, fine. Well, everybody up here usually are Red Sox fans. So anyway, this one witness down where I used to work would overhear me with the guys I was friendly with saying, I'll bet you a Diet Coke, a can of Coke, that the Yankees win the game tonight against the Sox. That's degenerate gambling. I was brought into a judicial committee meeting because of this, and I sat there and I said, listen, I'm going to tell you something. I will not name names. I can name at least 5 members of your congregation that bet me regularly a can of Coke or a hot dog or whatever over football, baseball, and basketball. I just do it for the fun of it, for the sake of having something to talk about the next day. Hey, my Yankees won, you owe me a Coke. Does that make me a degenerate gambler? No.
No.
You know, my family, the fridge was always, that's another thing too. The fridge was always full in my house. My kids always had good clothes, always had toys, and my wife always had a nice car to drive around proselytizing in. But yet that wasn't good enough. I wasn't good enough for the elders because I spoke my mind. I didn't take their guff. Okay, but they turned on me, but I wasn't good enough. I wasn't good enough.
Well, Mark, there's plenty out there right now that are not good enough. There's a lot out there right now, active Jehovah's Witnesses that are coming under the scrutiny of the elders, the higher-ups at the Watchtower. They have a book. It's a book that just the elders are privy to.
It's online, by the way.
It's online, and it's called the Flock Book.
Yep.
And, of course, this is not supposed to be in the hands of the rank-and-file witness. But they're speaking extensively in the book about what they call brazen conduct. You could be disfellowshipped for brazen conduct. Well, what is brazen conduct?
I never heard that one.
Oh, that's going to be, that's the newest thing. That's in the newest Flock Book. That's the newest thing that they're going to be disfellowshipping people on. And basically what that is your attitude. Let's just say that, I believe the example that was used is in the witness world, of course, if you went over to a friend's house of the opposite sex, and let's say a snowstorm came into play, and you couldn't go home, so you had to sleep there overnight. There was nothing going on here, but you just had to sleep there overnight. And then some other witness caught you staying at this person's house overnight. You could be reported to the elders. You know that.
Oh, yeah, I understand.
So that's a standard procedure in the Watchtower. But here's what happens, Mark. This is where brazen conduct comes in. Now, when you go in and you're questioned by the elders because you happen to stay over this person's house, there was nothing happened in a sexual way. There was no attraction there. It's just you couldn't get out because of the snowstorm. It all depends on how you answer their directed questions, whether you get disfellowshipped or not. In other words, if they say to you, Mark, I know you stayed over Sister Jones' house. Well, you know, it was just a snowstorm and I had to. If you had a meek way about you and you could really show them that that indeed was the truth, I mean, bring in the weather reports for that day, then you could probably cut some slack. But if you said, you know, this is foolish, why I even have to be questioned on such a matter, and you raised a little eyebrow about it, you could find yourself disfellowship.
Yeah. I was telling you we got time, but look at the picture of Joseph Rutherford.
Yeah.
Okay? Get yourself a picture of W.C. Fields. Ask the question, were they separated at birth?
Well, that's an interesting thing. Well, we're so glad, as we say, Mark, that we could come and be with you today. We're going to be doing this program pretty much on a regular basis. You're going to learn a lot about what the Jehovah's Witnesses are hiding behind. You're going to get the other side of the story. And we always want to let individuals be aware of the fact, too, that you don't really know who we are for the most part. We're sitting here, we're talking about all of these things that goes on in the world of Jehovah's Witnesses. Maybe you can challenge us. Maybe you're saying, that is all a bunch of baloney. Yeah, maybe you're sitting out there and you're falling off the edge of your couch. Maybe you believe everything being said here. I hope you do, because it's the truth. But if you don't, and you want to challenge us, by all means, you, as a Jehovah's Witness, or maybe one of your elders, circuit overseer, district overseer, governing body member, high officials of the Watchtower, we're open to a rebuttal. If
come on down.
Come on down, as we say. If for some reason you think that what we're saying is over the top and incorrect, well, come on down here and you can email us. You'll see the headings on the screen at the end of the program. You can get a hold of us and we'll make arrangements for that all to take place. Well, we were looking forward to more programming in the future, Mark. And we're certainly glad that Chelsea could be with us here today.
Thank you, Chelsea.
And the best is yet to come, Mark. And I hope that if you're a witness out there listening, please turn out the new light.